My first teach is going to be talking about the role of the pelvic floor muscles with bowel health and bowel pain, and going through a practice that every single person who has persisting pelvic pain, whether that be endometriosis, adenomyosis, whether it be bladder pain syndrome or interstitial cystitis or irritable bowel mixed with constipation or vulval pain, sexual pain, vestibular dynia, essentially any type of pain or pelvic pain should be practicing this principle. So to kick off with, I just want to go over a little bit of anatomy first. So using my trusty pelvic model, which you'll see quite a lot of in our coming videos. But having a look here, we've got the pubic bone at the front and we've got the tailbone at the back, which goes up into your spine. Now, underneath us, with female anatomy, we've got this beautiful group of muscles called the pelvic floor muscles. And we've got muscles more on the outside, which do more of a closure, a connection, an actual tightening. And then we've got these deeper pelvic floor muscles, which also do that closure. So they close inward, but they do the lifting upwards as well. So for people who have pelvic pain, and particularly if they've got persisting pelvic pain, which means they've got pain on most days, they might have flares that correlate with the menstrual cycle or certain triggers or stress. We know that the pelvic floor muscles are actually the first muscles in the body to actually go to protect, to guard, when we've got pain in our body and in that region. And there's been research done where they've looked at scary films and they've actually placed different electrodes on different muscles in the body, and they were really looking at to see, well, what muscles are the first to respond when we have stress, fear, danger through this terrifying film. And they actually found the pelvic floor muscles are the first muscles in the body to respond. So if we've got pain in that pelvic region, our body goes into a protection guarding response, and these pelvic floor muscles actually contract and switch on to protect that area. And we can understand why our body would do that, but it's not helpful for a lot of different reasons. And we're going to talk about this in the future education sessions here. But really today, what I want to focus about is your bowel movements. So if we're thinking about the pelvic floor muscles and what should actually happen with a bowel movement. So if we've got our bowel matter coming through our colon, coming down into the rectum, coming down into that passageway, we actually should get the signal down low that we've got a sensation or feeling of fullness there. And then when we've got that sensation, it will tell us, okay, you need to go to the toilet. And then we should sit on the toilet and we should be able to easily pass a bowel motion in like a minute or less without any pain, without any bleeding, without any feeling of incomplete emptying. So essentially our bowel movements should come easily, they should be soft, they should be easy to empty, there should be no bleeding, no issues at all. But for people who have pelvic pain, all of those conditions I listed to before, they have these pelvic floor muscles that 99.9% of the time are actually engaged and switched on in this protective mode and this guarding mode for a variety of different reasons. But when we go to have a bowel movement, we actually want these pelvic floor muscles to release, to let go. So let's just do a little test of that now. And it doesn't matter if you don't know anything about pelvic floor, but just place your hands onto like your tummy area. And I want you to just suck your tummy in. So really do a big suck in and let go. And do that again, just at that sort of tummy region, and let go. Now the next time you do it, so you do that sucking in, I want you to think about and sense in your body what's actually happening at that back passage. When you suck in your tummy, what can you feel? What can you sense? And so for me, when I suck in my tummy, I actually feel that connection with that sucking in, that guarding, and that pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor muscles actually tighten and close. So see what's happening in your body. For some of you who have pelvic pain, you might actually feel a bit disconnected from that part of your body, and it might be hard for you to feel into this, and that's absolutely okay. But just sense what you can feel. And we know that if we suck in the tummy, if we actually guard, because we've got this pelvic pain and all our tummy muscles are switched on, we're in pain all the time, we're curled over, our pelvic floor's on, our tummy muscles on, we're all tight and tense, we've got migraines, we've got whole body aches with fatigue, we're not sleeping, all these things, the pelvic floor muscles are switched on. And then if we go to do a bowel movement, to do a poo, if our tummy muscles are switched on, those muscles that wrap around the back passage, they're going to be really tight and switched on too. And it's going to be really painful to pass a bowel movement. And it's going to be really difficult. So you might be there for a long time straining and pushing because you've got all this muscle contraction. You can't actually let go. It might give you that sensation of that incomplete emptying. Some people, it might give you hemorrhoids, fissures, so actually localized tissue like irritation. And this then feeds into that pain cycle and even more. So if we have a painful experience with our bowel, we've got this guarding of the pelvic floor muscles that creates more pain. We go to have a poo, we can't poo well because of the pain, we get more pain. And then if we just get more overactivity of the pelvic floor, more guarding of the pelvic floor muscles, it goes in this cycle. And that's only one element. So we know that it's not just what's happening at the body and what's happening at the tissues. This is a huge element and something that we can change straight away. And this is the number one practice I want you to take away from today. But then we have got our connection between our body and our mind, which is our nervous system. And we know that if we have this process going on for longer than 3 months in our body, we're actually going to get changes in the local nervous system, in the tissues in that area. We're going to get crosstalk of the nervous system in the different organs in our abdominal region. We're going to get changes up through the spinal cord into the brain and how all of our pain's represented in the brain. And this all amplifies and actually pushes out even more pain in that pelvic region and throughout our whole body. So the practice I'm going to teach you today is going to look at an underlying root cause and trigger, but we also need to think about what's happening with the nervous system. So we'll talk about that in other videos as well. So this is the one thing I want you to take away, and I want you to start practicing right now. So I want you to learn how to do a bowel movement. And for those of you who have pain, the first step is going to be awareness, so actually reflecting and seeing what you're doing in your body. So when you're sitting on the toilet, I want you to actually have a stool. So I've just got a basket because I'm at work, but you can actually have a little fold out stool. And I want you to put your feet onto that stool when you're on the toilet. And what this does is it brings your knees higher than your hips. And this gets you in a position with your pelvic floor muscles to actually open, to release. Because we don't want those pelvic floor muscles really tight and switched on. We actually want them to be open. These deeper sling of muscles to be open. So when we have that firmer bowel movement or any bowel movement coming down, we can have a nice opening and not be just tense and guarding with our pelvic floor muscles. So the first thing is getting your feet on a stool. And this is the number one thing I want you to take away from this session is that. Make sure you have a stool. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to look at your breathing. And this is because the breathing muscle, the diaphragm, has a connection with that pelvic floor to help release, to help that pelvic floor open, to let go of that guarding, to help actually break that pain cycle. So if you can connect with your diaphragm through deep breathing exercises, and we'll talk about this in future exercises, you can get relaxation and opening and letting go of your pelvic floor. You can actually breathe in, bulge your belly out 360 degrees around your body. So not just at the front, but actually at the sides, and even feeling pressing back into your spine. If you hold that bulge out with using that nice diaphragmatic deep breath, and then if you do a gentle pushing down and you're breathing and you're using that correct technique, you'll actually open up through those pelvic floor muscles. You'll take pressure off any hemorrhoids there. You won't create any fissures. You'll actually retrain the local nervous system there. You'll have a pain-free bowel movement, which will actually help with the representation of pain and output of pain through our brain in our whole nervous system. So this is the number one thing I want you to take away. And there's going to be heaps more coming in this space, but this is, the first video about that. Have a beautiful day. Make sure you get a stool, and I will talk to you all soon.